with it later.
Heck yeah. We should have Rodrigo popping in here soon too.
Love it. We need to drip you guys out more. Who else do we have here? Otaku, what's up? What's up, Otaku?
Man, I want a body shark.
The body
Does
sharks,
it swim around?
So it will swim around. There is an event, and Mariana and I are actually going to be, I guess, co-hosting it on Monday for Ocean Meta. And it's going to be all about facts that people have to find and answer about sharks during this to win various prizes. So, that event is going on later next week on Monday. Am I on?
Is it Shark Week already?
Is it Shark Week? It will be next week in Decentraland.
I should have that marked in my calendar. I feel like it's such a big holiday these days that that should be listed on the Google holiday calendar.
1 sec, not on Twitch, only in world. Although, I probably should hook a Twitch account up to this at one point. So while we get started here, I'll just go over some of the basics that we have in this building, some of the things that we've added, and then I'll introduce you, David, and what the BLC is currently up to. So over here, you can see we have installed some of the billboards or posters representing what the BLC or the Blockchain Learning Center stands for, and some of their amazing infographics that they have put together, helping onboard new users to just the blockchain space in general, which is awesome. And then additionally, in case anybody, isn't aware or hasn't submitted yet, we have a Sandstorm sponsored event going on. They received $120,000 of grant money, and every 2 weeks they are doing $5,000 in cash prizes for builders. So we've got a new podium in place here for all of the winners of these events that will inevitably be able to take this spot. And if anybody has any issues, creating a Sandstorm profile, just let me know. And then finally, there is the mask I'm currently wearing, which is Marco Maddox Design, who is one of the big contributors to the Decentraland Art Week with their Colossus installation, which is just awesome. So lots going on in Decentraland, lots going on with this build, and excited to see all you people here today. So now I would like to introduce David Baxter, who is fitted out in this gorgeous blue polo next to me right now, and is the founder of the Blockchain Learning Center. Just to kind of introduce himself, talk about what the Blockchain Learning Center's goal is, and then we'll continue diving into what it's all about, where it's headed, and how it might be of use to Decentralandians. So David, if you want to go ahead and take the floor.
Thanks for that wonderful intro. I love how the beard on my character kind of looks like it's a fake beard. It's really beautiful. This is my first time in Decentraland, and this place rocks. It's really smooth and easy to use, so I'm stoked to be here. So the Blockchain Learning Center, for anyone that hasn't heard about it so far, is we're trying to do a number of things, but essentially we're trying to onboard people into blockchain. We're trying to show them all the potential that we see and all the ways that blockchain can be used for good, and kind of reach them where they are with education. So the way that we're starting with that is we're going to the Arizona Science Center every month. We used to be doing it every week, and we're just gathering information. We're talking to people. We're trying to teach them about blockchain, but more importantly, we're recording the questions that common folk are asking about blockchain, and their impressions and the way they feel about it, their disposition. And we're trying to use all that information to develop educational resources that can meet them exactly where they are and help them get into this space and really see all this cool stuff that we're experiencing right now, and the ways that it can be used to help achieve our missions, whether it's social, economic, or environmental. Like, we all have a lot of things that we want to accomplish here, and we're trying to help people do that. We're also building an online platform where people can build courses and share what they know about getting into these spaces and about interacting with blockchain, and really get to share their passion. We're working with groups to help them pinpoint good educational strategies, and we're also kind of tying all this together by trying to build these composable learning spaces out of all the materials that we're producing, and we're creating more materials to help build these composable real world learning spaces, which is going to tie into this other company that we're starting, which is where kind of all of this began, and it's where my mission is really realized. That's the BeanChain Coffee Shop, and with the BeanChain Coffee Shop, the goal there is to help people get out of poverty and help workers. Um, and so it's going to be a worker-directed company. The workers are going to get 50% of the voting power. Founders get the other 50%, and we have like a proposal process just to make sure that the workers' voices are always heard. Everyone will get a fair living wage, and it should be an amazing place to be and work. And along with that, we believe that the tools being built on blockchain are going to be incredibly impactful for worker-directed companies, organizations, any sort of group that wants to be more democratic and fair and treat people well. We think that the tools being built on blockchain, specifically for DAOs and all across blockchain and Web3, they allow us to achieve those goals a little bit more easily. So we want to see people adopt those, and that's where the idea for the BLC started. I threw a lot out there, so I'll pause for a second and let's let you kind of get me on track and ask any questions that you want to. But there's a lot more that we're doing too outside of that.
Yeah, of course. So, I've got your sites up. So obviously I've got the Blockchain Learning Center site up, and then as well the BeanChain Coffee site up. So I guess my first question would be, what made you decide to make these two separate entities and then, kind of combine them together?
Well, I guess it's at first they weren't. I started out. I made a little bit of money in cryptocurrency, and I got a small inheritance, enough to like starting a small business. So I've sunk most of that into starting the Bean Chain, and the idea there was to help workers, was for it to be a worker-directed company, see if we can change some lives, give some people like a living wage, and let them not have to worry so much about affording housing and medication, but just living and then prospering in their career. So that's what the BeanChain Coffee Shop is all about. And then the blockchain aspect of that kind of came afterwards, where we were like, hey, these tools are going to help us, and hopefully they'll help us run this company more efficiently. And we want to try to develop this kind of template for what a good worker-directed company can be, that other people can then copy, use, and we can make like maybe a one-stop shop where people can say, I'm starting a business, and then do some configurations, and we can spit out all the tools they need and the structure they need for a good worker-directed company. So we're using the Bean Chain as a way to experiment with that, but we think that the blockchain tools are going to be so helpful for that we wanted to help get people to adopt it. So we decided to build out a space in the Bean Chain where we can get people on board with blockchain and show them the basics, because we saw adoption as the biggest hurdle. So originally it was going to be just part of the Bean Chain, but then we realized that there's so much passion around this idea of just onboarding people and showing them the basics of blockchain from all these communities that we were interacting with within the Cardano space and other ecosystems in blockchain. So we decided to kind of break it apart and make it its own thing, and develop this idea of these physical spaces where people can learn in a way that we can get them into community centers, libraries, schools, maybe componentize them so that people can just take like specific components from these learning spaces and use them, and try to, because there's not many people out there that are creating really easily accessible information for people. It's all very developer focused and like people who are deep into crypto focused, but like there's so many uses for blockchain.
So with the BeanChain Coffee, you guys are currently under development, correct? With at least one location, and I believe last time I talked to you, you were in the works on a second location in real life. These real life coffee chain locations.
One step back from that, but kind of. So we have a coffee cart that we're building right now. It's already built. We're just getting it legal. We have like one inspection to get done, and then we can start selling coffee at the coffee cart. And that will give us more platforms to talk to people about blockchain and get them involved in that and test out our educational materials and refine them in person as we sell the people coffee. And then we have a lease signed for a physical location in Mesa, Arizona. We got a pretty good deal. It's going to be about 5,500 square feet, so a huge coffee shop, but we're also going to be a bakery, a roaster, and have the blockchain learning center in there. So hopefully we'll be able to make really good use of that space. That should be opening, I'm hoping, by the end of the year, but maybe early 2023 construction. Takes a little bit of time.
So I'm looking. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. So you're doing a lot here, and I mean, the fact that it's not just going to be a coffee shop. It's going to be, it's going to be an educational facility. It's going to be a coffee shop. It's going to be a roastery. It's going to be a bakery,
shared workspace,
and a shared workspace. So I'm looking.
We're gonna have offices.
Oh my gosh! I'm looking at the menu right now, and I guess, what are you thinking about in terms of making this a bakery and a coffee shop, aside from all of the educational stuff that you're doing? Are you also leading what's going to be on the menu, or do you have other people like a chef or something? How are you doing all of this?
I'll probably be working primarily in the coffee shop and then kind of like managing the blockchain learning center from there. But I'm trying to, the appeal of having more cooperative and worker-driven companies is that you're empowering all the people within these organizations to be their own leaders, to have this kind of more flat style of doing business where the teams have their own leads. There's a little bit of autonomy. Hopefully it takes some of the stress off my own plate in terms of having to lead everything. But I will probably be mostly in the coffee shop, and hopefully by that time the blockchain learning center will be kind of humming along, and we'll have team leads for all of the teams within our we're using a disco style of governance for the blockchain learning center, which is a distributed co-op, very similar to a DAO, and we're going to use a lot of tools from DAOs. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be serving people coffee and kind of lightly leading the blockchain learning center and trying to make sure that this coffee shop and the community building that has to take place in order to build a well-run cooperative entity happens, because it's going to be way different than any traditional business. Cooperatives, it's more of a community. Like you're not treated like a number there. You're treated like a person. So we're going to have to put a lot more energy into conflict resolution and relationship building with our employees, who will eventually become our partners and co-owners in this space.
So that brings me to I'm sidetracking myself here from the questions I originally wanted to ask. But we see these things, or at least I see these things about. Well, the Great Resignation happened, went well for some people, didn't go well for other people. But now there is something that I feel like is more prevalent globally, which is called quiet quitting, which is essentially people who, instead of trying to excel at their job and get promoted or get a raise, they do the bare minimum, and they're focusing the remainder of their time on their actual passions or what they want to do. And some people say that that's because they're drawing a line between work-life balance or whatever it may be. Although I specifically know people who are like, yeah, no, I'm just going to go as long as I can before I get fired. So I'm just curious to see, given that you're very work-oriented and worker lifestyle-oriented, what do you think about what's going on globally right now with this Great Resignation and with this quiet quitting kind of mindset that the new generation has?
Well, it's why I'm here. So I was definitely part of that group. I wasn't deliberately trying to do the bare minimum, but I wasn't motivated because I knew that I'm a front end developer by trade. I experienced a lot of poverty as an adult and a young adult. I didn't get to go to college. I had to teach myself. So I ended up teaching myself web development and then lying my way into my first job, saying that I already had a job as a web developer because it's hard to do without college. But I figured out quickly that I was more skilled than a lot of the people that were already there. So then I've worked in that field for the better part of a decade, and eventually, I realized that I was just coasting, and that I had all these things I cared about, like helping people not have to experience poverty in the way that I did, helping workers see more from the jobs that they're participating in. Like they're putting in all this value, and it's all being just liberated from them, and they're being given nothing back. And then I watched my wife work at the same company that I worked but as a call center advocate instead of a developer like I was, and I saw the huge difference, the huge discrepancy between the way I was treated and the way my wife was treated, and it infuriated me. I tried to start a union, and that failed because everyone was too afraid to unionize. There wasn't anything I could do to convince people that was something that could help them. So I kind of gave up, and I was coasting for a while, and then I realized, the right path is maybe just to quit and try to find some other way to make an impact for workers than working within a system that's completely broken. So we're trying to change it.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you and I have known each other for a few months now, and I feel like I just learned a little bit more about you, which is always good. But it's great to hear, kind of the backstory and what is driving creators in this new space. And one of the reasons I think that the Great Resignation failed for a lot of individuals is because there were these individuals that, are talented and they had great jobs, and then they left them just to try to kind of coast. And it's like, you fucked up, buddy. Like, you need to have some sort of drive to keep you going, regardless of the opportunities that have been, given to you. You could have all the opportunities in the world, but if you're not driven, then you're just going to not succeed ultimately.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think to add a little bit to what you're talking about there, I do think a lot of that, the kind of people that quit without really realizing why they felt like they wanted to just take a break, but they're not realizing that they're being taken advantage of, and like there's a reason that they're not motivated. There's a reason that they're feeling the ways they are, but they're hesitant to put that on the system because that's how the system works. It's ubiquitous. It's like across the whole system. That's the way it works. So there's no escaping it. No escaping that system. It has to be them. So they kind of put it on themselves, and they're not placing that correctly. So it becomes confusing. But like we really need to change this so that we don't have to be unmotivated at work. Shouldn't have to be like that.
Yeah. I think it's just that, when your job says that you have to work 40 hours a week, but then you need to work 60 hours a week to show that, oh, I want to be promoted. It's like that's where the breaking point has kind of occurred, where people are like, okay, well, I didn't get promoted. So, kind of like, fuck this. I'm not going to try to excel because obviously that's not paying off for me.
Well, yeah, so many people have been burnt by that, and that leads to a mentality that allows for. Are you familiar with the concept of wage theft?
Yes, which is, if I'm correct, wage theft is essentially having people work more than they're being paid for.
Yes, among other things, there are actually a few different kinds of wage theft that are occurring all the time to all of us, and a lot of us don't realize it. We don't have a name for it. We're not really paying attention, and it happens because of mentalities like that like I need to work harder to get ahead mentality. So it forces us to not respect ourselves and the people who are paying for our labor are more than willing to go along with that and allow us to do it, as well as doing other things that more deliberately take advantage of us. Like there's 5 major kinds, or 6 major kinds of wage theft: overtime, where you're just not being paid for overtime; employee misclassification, where you're not classified as employee but as an independent contractor or something else, so you don't get the benefits you should be getting; minimum wage, where they're just not paying you as much as they should; working off the clock, and that's kind of what a lot of people do to get ahead, and they kind of go along with that thinking it'll pay off, but it seldom does. Illegal deductions from pay. A lot of employers will be doing that. I'm sure we've all experienced that in our minimum wage jobs, and just not being paid at all for the work that you did. Say you're working from home and you have to get some equipment repaired, and they're like not paying you for the time you're going in to do that, or you I don't know, they just find ways to nickel and dime you and like not pay you for that extra 15 minutes. That kind of stuff happens all the time.
So I'm looking at the sign right now for the working poor, and I do have 2 questions about what you just went over. One of them being minimum wage violations, and I feel like minimum wage, maybe it's not such a big topic to discuss right now, in 2022, but a couple of years ago or last year, whenever it was huge when a couple of states, I think, raised minimum wage to like $15 an hour. And I'll say that, like, when I was in college, I had an internship and I was working for a hedge fund, and I don't even think I was making $15 an hour. It was a summer internship, and this $600 million hedge fund was paying me like $12.50, maybe $15 an hour to work there. And I was like, damn, this is like double minimum wage. This is awesome. And now you go to Seattle and Burger King and McDonald's employees have a minimum wage of $15 an hour. So what do you think about that?
It's still not enough. The thing is, our cost of living has gone up so much. A living wage in the United States right now, I think, is somewhere closer to $20 an hour. I mean, it varies from place to place, and if you're a single parent, it's much higher than that. So, like, our minimum wage should be closer to $20 an hour, depending on where you are. It should really be tied to the living wage, because that is always going to be fluctuating. And if we make sure that the minimum wage is tied to that, then we can at least make sure people are okay. But yeah, $15 an hour is like, it's amazing to me that there are some places that you still don't get paid that. that's ridiculous.
That's okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
Oh no. Go for it. I was just going to say... Oh, yeah, you go first.
I was going to say, like, it blows my mind that $15 an hour is the minimum wage. Because if I think about going to literally McDonald's and getting paid $15 an hour to work at McDonald's, like, that blows my mind. Like, why would somebody get paid $15 an hour to work at McDonald's? Like, that literally blows my mind. I don't think that the minimum wage at McDonald's should be, I think it should be substantially less than that,
Well, here's something to chew on. There is no state in the United States where somebody can afford a 2-bedroom apartment on minimum wage, and there's very few states, I think there's only a couple, that somebody can actually afford a 1-bedroom apartment on minimum wage. So that being said, the fact that housing prices aren't even covered by that wage means that things like medicine, any other needs that you have, any other like clothing, everything else that you need to pay for, your power, your phone bill, everything, that all falls outside of that even. So the fact that, like, people can't live, they can't even afford housing on this minuscule amount of money that they're making at these establishments, means that there's something broken here. Either people are just going to be homeless, or we need to change something about the way that we compensate and reward workers.
Okay, so next question then was, and those are good points. I guess I just kind of think about it in terms of how much I was making. Like I think my first job, I was making $7.25 an hour, and it's like gotta do what you gotta do, right? Put in more hours, earn the money, but. So going aside from minimum wage and talking about illegal deductions from pay, I would think that a lot of people really wouldn't even know how to identify whether or not there is a illegal deduction from pay. So could you give us a couple of scenarios or that that happens?
Well, that happens in a number of ways. I mean, you'll get deductions from pay for like your uniform or something like that. I don't know exactly which ones off the top of my head are illegal, but I know that the types of wage theft that have been proven to be happening add up to around, as of 2012, which was a long time ago, about $50 billion a year. I'm sure they've only increased since then, though I don't have the current number for this year. And that accounted for more theft than all other kinds of theft combined that year. So wage theft is a huge problem. It's the largest kind of theft, and that's just the wage theft that can be proven, like in a court of law proven. So there's probably a lot more of it happening than that.
That is interesting. There was there was one internship that I had. This is maybe when I was like a sophomore in college, and this just seems like wage theft because I lived like 30 minutes away from them, and we would have these required meetings, but we had shifts, but you had to show up to these meetings, and you don't get paid to traveling there, and you don't get paid for traveling back, and then when you have to go to your location, you have to be at that location on time, but you're not able to expense gas or anything like that until your clock starts. And so if you show up late, you're getting in trouble and penalized. But in order to show up on time, you're not able to bill any of the miles you're driving. And in some cases, these are 30, 45-minute drives, and we're getting paid minimum wage at the time was, $7.25 or $7.50 or whatever. And so I was like, dude, I'm spending like the amount of money I'm making in lunch, food, and gas. Like, what is the point of this? And I was actually the last person to quit. Like, everybody before me quit, and then I finally was like, this is ridiculous. I quit.
And that's probably one of those kinds of wage theft that actually flies under the radar because people comply with it. They go along with things like that because they see it as an opportunity for themselves. But in reality, it's people being motivated to work for free. It's tantamount to slave labor. And that's something that is just a part of our workplace right now. And, in an era when companies have never been more profitable, like Starbucks' profits have been going through the roof, even though their workers have been getting mistreated and their pay has remained stagnant. When you have a company whose profits are doubling and their workers aren't seeing any of that increase, I mean, that's reflective of this problem, and that's why we're doing what we're trying to do. And that's also why, I mean, we're looking at these banners right now. These are for the Work-Life Unbalance campaign, which is meant to highlight everything that we're talking about. We're trying to capture the stories of the 100 million people who are within 200% of the poverty line, and tell those stories as part of an NFT, and then sell that and give them half of the proceeds back from that NFT sale, and then give half of them to worker-directed companies that will be trying to address these problems by actually paying their workers living wages, giving them a say in how things work, and just treating them better. This campaign is all about like spreading awareness of these things, of wage theft, of exactly how prominent poverty is in our society. And there's 12 million people who are working full-time jobs and still under the poverty line, and that's ridiculous. That legally that shouldn't be allowed.
That I mean, yeah, times are yes. I mean that is absolutely crazy. Just out of curiosity, and again, I keep sidetracking myself. But
Oh, please do.
given the current situation within the United States, because if I'm correct, all of these statistics are for the U.S., right?
Yep, and on the website, all the resources for these statistics are listed as well. No one
So
should take our word for it.
but so just out of curiosity, like, given the current situation in the United States with, everything you've presented, do you think that people in the US are still better off than some other countries, or are people in the US like getting worse off than some of these other countries?
But we're getting absolutely hosed. We don't have universal health care here. We have very expensive college. Medical debt and student debt are, I think, the top two debts in the United States. Medical debt isn't even a thing in a lot of other countries because that's a right. Like you actually have the right to medical care. I recently went to the hospital for something that could have been life threatening, and I almost didn't go because I was worried about the bill. And that thing could have killed me if it was what we thought it was. And that's a choice that people make all the time in America. So not only is our life being drained away minute by minute in these jobs that aren't paying enough for us to have any sort of economic mobility, but we are also being subjected to such low quality of public services that it's actually putting our lives at risk. These are things that we need to bring awareness to and help contribute to that conversation to change these things so that we can live in a world where we don't have to worry about school shootings or we don't have to worry about going broke if we get cancer. Um,
I, I
that's not how
I
that's not
see.
how it should work.
Yeah, Cyclopa, he's commenting in the chat, and he's saying, yeah, they subsidize that stuff in our country, and there are a lot of countries. I feel like the majority of countries that are first world countries that is not the United States subsidizes a lot of this stuff. But it is interesting not to get too far into politics, but Biden did announce today that he
Cancellation of
was
student debt.
cancellation of $10,000 of student debt for anybody making under $125,000 a year. And one of the biggest questions that came up was, okay, well, what about all of these people that have struggled and they have paid off their debt? And now you're giving free money to all of these other people that didn't struggle and didn't pay off their debt.
Okay, so I mean, the same argument could be applied to um, that argument basically is, since I had to suffer, everyone else should have to suffer. That's and that I think is a deeply flawed argument. If you applied that argument to slavery, where a slave was like, I had to run away to escape slavery, so why should you get to escape it because of legal changes? That's clearly a ridiculous argument for that, right? So I think it's very much the same for this. Say take healthcare for example. You might if you end up having kids. I don't know if you do have children right now, but you probably don't want them to have to go into extreme debt for getting cancer or heart disease or something like that, and then or to have to contemplate not going to the hospital for something life threatening. But you may have had to deal with those things, to grapple with those things. I would say improvement is improvement. We should be encouraging it. We should be encouraging building a society that we would want to live in, rather than justifying the society that we do live in by our struggle through it.
Building a bridge.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, building a bridge so that other people can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there's this. I was raised Christian, though I'm not very Christian now. But I do hold a lot of those philosophies of caring, kindness, forgiveness, and all those things very high. But there's a story in the Bible about sometimes you don't get to go to the land of milk and honey. You have to take other people there, and I think the moral of that story was more like, we're gonna have to sacrifice to get to the world we want to see. We might not be able to see it though, and I think that's what all this is. It's us building towards something that could be so much better for the people that come after us. even if we don't get to directly benefit from it, even if we still have to pay our student debt.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. This brings me to the bridge building concept brings me to my next question, because you have created, or I guess Blockchain Learning Center has created tons of infographics, which sure you created, but they're not just for you to use, right? Anybody can use these assets.
I think you cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
So I was saying that brings me to the next point about, building bridges, not necessarily just building stuff that you personally can use or take advantage of, but building things that other people can use and take advantage of to help, the greater good. And that kind of took me over to the infographics and the illustrations that you and your team have been developing. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you are developing for these infographics, how people can leverage the infographics you have developed, and how they can get involved in helping you create more of these?
Yeah, totally. So everything that we're doing is kind of this we're trying to create this journey for people. So the main goal is eventually, with our vision, we should have these physical blockchain learning centers that people can walk into, learn passively about blockchain and all the good that it can do, and how they can get involved, and we can help them get into communities that can allow their visions and missions to flourish, whether it's helping like improve things socially, economically, or environmentally. And in an effort to do that, we're gathering this data with the in-person events to try to like make sure that we can develop the best resources for people, and an expression of that is these infographics. And a lot of these will be used in the physical displays in the in-person events, in the in-person setups as well, in the real world, but they're also all available online. So we're developing infographics that are based on that data that we're gathering at the in-person events. These are all they stem from questions and misunderstandings that we've seen people have in person, that we've had to explain to people over and over again. So we're trying to make this data a little bit more relatable and easy to understand. We're going to be going over every topic that we feel is impactful and important, as well as all the specific questions that we see people having, so that they can be really easy to answer, and so that anybody else who is struggling to get certain parts of blockchain philosophy and blockchain technology across to people can use these infographics as prompts and aids in that teaching journey. So
anybody, you guys are making these licensable or unlicensed, like freely available for anybody to use and leverage. Is that correct?
Yes, anybody should be able to use these. So you can go to our website, and there's a page for the infographics. Right now, it links to some Google photo folders where you can download all these from. We're building some better ways to store and search through these infographics and all the other resources that we're developing as well. But you can definitely grab them from where they are now in those Google photo drives, and just use them as you see fit. We also have a weekly community resource development session that anybody's welcome to come to, and we're developing this methodology for going through and exploring a topic, and fully exploring that topic and figuring out how to teach that to people, developing educational strategies around that topic, and then turning that into templates for infographics that we can go then make and bring back and make free to everyone as well. So if you have anything you want to teach people about blockchain, come to one of those community resource development sessions, and let's talk about it and dive into it, and then we can come back with an infographic that can make that easier for you.
Yeah, and I know we didn't have the time to put in the links in the actual building, but for anybody that is watching this either now or later on, if you just go to the blockchain learning.center, you can scroll to the bottom. They've got their Twitter here. They've got their links to these infographics that are readily available for you to use. They have their link to their Discord, which you can get a part of, or if you are somebody that is creating courses, this is a place where you can host your courses as well. And maybe, David, you want to talk a little bit about, what's available for people that might be creating educational courses and how they can leverage this platform, beyond everything that you're currently offering and leveraging these infographics. If they are a course creator, how can this platform be beneficial to them?
Well, it's super easy to use. So we chose an LMS that has a very simple course building component to it. So you can go in there and build a course with topics and lessons that can have videos or images as the featured content. You can throw a bunch of text in there, add additional files, and have a kind of flow for your students. You can have quizzes and all sorts of cool add-ons to that, and you can add a bunch of instructors to the course too, so you can co-build those courses with people. You can also charge for them, and we give 60% of the profits from any course that you want to charge for back to the instructor, which is a lot higher than any other platforms like Udemy or really any platforms we found out there will do. It's I think they typically do like 25 to 40% profits to the instructor. So we wanted to go above and beyond on that. And all this is basically like we're trying to offer a platform for everybody to teach everybody else. Like we all have this knowledge, but there's limited access to it, and these things are developing so quickly that we really are the experts, the people who are participating in in these environments. So we're the perfect people to teach others about this. So I would encourage anyone to use that, and then we can also work with you guys, any instructors, on getting those made into physical displays that we can put into the physical blockchain learning centers as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are a lot of incentives that you offer. So, I mean, not only are you building out this entire platform IRL in the metaverse online, but people can use the content you're developing. They can use your platform to offer their courses either for free for exposure or for cost, and then ultimately actually get physical installations as well. I mean, I think that's all awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. And it looks like you're doing a lot of the same stuff. Like you're building this environment that's easier for people to understand and has a bunch of information and helping kind of disseminate that information out to people. And from what I understand, you make some amazing video courses too, which we're hoping to have some on our platform also.
Yes, we do have. We've got a project in the works. It's underway, but the goal is the gamification of education in Decentraland. And so one of the things that we will offer through this is, if you were to go up to our top floor, which I believe the elevator might currently be a little little broken right now. We're gonna have to fix that. But if you go up to the very top, there is a partial library up there right now, and we will be expanding that library and really turning that into a legitimate virtual library where people for free can come in and they can check out courses. And these courses are going to be 3D books, and they open up and they play an educational course so that people can learn at first, about everything going on in Decentraland, but then about everything that is going on just in the metaverse and the blockchain space in general. So encouraging learning, making it fun. We'll have quests that are involved, and librarian and NPC and all these different quest lines. And so, yeah, we want to make that education maybe fun.
Maybe we could have like a collective scavenger, like education scavenger hunt that traverses many different multiverse spaces too. And since we're going to be building ours in Muse and you're building in Decentraland, we could have like things that people need to find in both, and like they can travel from one to another.
That is interesting because there is a group in Decentraland called Dapcraft, which is currently working on technology called Hypo. And they, I guess I will be one of the beta testers for that. So the Curation station will be integrated into Hypo, and it can traverse metaverses as well as Decentraland. So you have all these different exploration quests that are involved. And so one of them will take people here to the Curation station, but it also has the capability to take people to other metaverses. And ultimately, that's kind of what I see as like one of the biggest like drivers for the space, and one of the biggest drivers for like interoperability in the space. You know, it's not one metaverse over another metaverse. All of these platforms are the metaverse together, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and this like interconnected Web3 is really it's such an attractive concept. You know, it may not be in the end the most economically impactful, but like but having more fun in the internet, where we spend like so much of our lives now, and having it just be like easier to use and feel more interactive is pretty amazing. And it directly impacts education. The easier it is to interact with, the better. Oh, hey, I'm floating.
All right, is it working? Oh wait, I just went up into the eye. Real quick plug. I know we're coming up on time here, but Cyclopa has developed an amazing eye in the sky if you go up into it, and it's quite the sight. Oh, yes, I can jump off the edge now. He brought down the colliders. So yes, there's a magical floating eye up in the air where you can see basically everything from it, and more to come there. Let's check out this floating capability. Can I float right now? No, I'm still bugged out. Man,
I'm not having much luck.
It's hard when you've got this much stuff going on in a building. We should create some educational courses around this, like how to not overload a scene. So
I was going to say, if I were to, I know that since we're running up on time, I wanted to kind of just recap a little bit and summarize. If I were to summarize like what we're doing at the BeanChain and the Blockchain Learning Center right now, the BeanChain is all about helping workers and ending poverty and showing people how they can do business better and in a more collaborative way with their workers. And the Blockchain Learning Center is all about showing people the good they can do with blockchain technology and getting people involved so that we can start using these tools to build something better instead of just reinforcing old power structures. And that all involves getting people onboarded and involved and showing them that they have the power to direct the development of all this stuff.
So I guess just closing notes, where do you see, the rest of the year? Where do you see you guys going, and what impact do you think or hope to make?
Well, we hope to get a bunch of physical blockchain learning centers built in a number of spaces. We have a community center in Superior, Arizona that wants to have one, a couple coffee shops in California that are open to the idea, and a science center in, I think, Oregon or Washington that would like to have a blockchain learning center in it. And we're pursuing all of that right now. For the BeanChain, we just want to get it open and running and serving people coffee and changing the lives of some workers. And then for the Work-Life Unbalance campaign, we hope to get some more stories from more workers and continue selling the NFTs that we currently have, so that we can change the life of our first worker and get her some money that she could use to change her position. And kind of move forward with things, get out of the poverty situation that she's in, as well as empowering worker-directed organizations by giving worthy worker-directed organizations the rest of the funds to start building with.
So if people want to get in touch with you and get in touch with your cause and what you're doing, how should they do that?
Just reach out. We got the blockchainlearning.center is our website for the Blockchain Learning Center. BeanChain.coffee is our website for the coffee shop. And most of the contact stuff will go to me. we also have a Discord and a Twitter for the Blockchain Learning Center. So there's a lot of ways to get in contact and keep up to date. But we are looking to build our team specifically for the Blockchain Learning Center, and yeah, we'd love to talk to anybody who has a sympathetic mission and vision to us, wants to get involved.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, hey, it was great having you on. I'm hoping that we continue doing more with the Blockchain Learning Center. Obviously, very excited about the services that you offer and how you can not only help everybody who's trying to help others by providing these materials, but help other people get involved with what you're doing and what your cause is. So, again, thanks for coming on this stream and being a part of this event. And now I think it's just about time to hand it over to Mr. Swee and get some music going. But one last thing, it does turn out DG, the realm DG, is splitting people up. So we can... We're at DG at and realm hella, and it's island us on different islands. Decentraland always doing something funky with everybody. So I'm thinking we can head over to the other island with, realm equals DG and island. It's quite odd. It's quite odd what hold on. I'm gonna copy this, and I'm just gonna go check out this other realm really quick because we might want to head over there for Mr. Swee's music.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be able to talk about this, and I appreciate the challenging questions, and I think that there's an immense power to sort of really exploring the differences of opinions that people have on these topics and sharing our differing experiences with all this stuff, because that's where the real truth is found, is in between all of our experiences. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Yes, I'm hopping over. Oh, my OBS is disconnecting and reconnecting. That means Mr. Swee is about to bring the Swenergy. I'm turning off my stream. I will catch you all later. But David, I'll stay on the call for you so that we can hop in for this music.
Heck yeah. Later, man.
All right. We are off air. Ba 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 ba.